Alright, morning to everyone. In this video, I'll be addressing questions sent to me by 3 students from 6K. So I will not be mentioning their names. And for the rest of you to use this, I would suggest that you will read the question, pause the video, try answering them first before you read. And as for these 3 students, if this video helps you, that's great. If you have further queries, just ask. Right, let's get started. Right, so let's take a look at this question. Now, Sean carried out an experiment to find out how the amount of light shining on the plant affects the amount of water it takes in. So let's examine the diagrams. Same number of leaves, same amount of water, and oil is on top of oil is on top of the water in each beaker. Alright, the plant looks like they are it's very identical or similar, and the only difference you can see here is the number of lamps, which therefore affects the amount of light. Right, which is good. So this person, Sean, seems to be carrying out an experiment that I think is a fair test here. Then he left the setups in the same room. So same room means that the conditions such as temperature, humidity, wind, everything will be the same. And recorded the amount of water left in each beaker after 4 days. Alright, so at the start it's the same, at the end there's a difference. So what concept is this? Alright, what concept is Sean trying to leverage on when he talks about this experiment about how light affects the amount of water it takes in? This is actually about photosynthesis. We talk about carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of light and chlorophyll to give you oxygen and food or sugar, alright, as some of you might have written down. So if there is more light, what will happen? The rate of photosynthesis will increase. If the rate of photosynthesis increases, that means that there will be more oxygen bubbles and more food being produced, which concurrently also means there will be more of the carbon dioxide used, so there will be less carbon dioxide left, and there will be less water left inside the beaker. So water level will decrease. So by examining the amount of water left, Sean can come to a certain conclusion. Oh, the rate of photosynthesis here is the highest. Rate of photosynthesis, and here is the lowest, alright, rate of photosynthesis. And that's linked to this concept. More light, higher rate of photosynthesis, more water used, less water left. So what can influence the outcome? What can influence the results? It's water, right? Water can evaporate. What if somebody say, oh, they evaporate, no? And therefore that affects the rate of evaporation? Because more lamp means there's sometimes you can always link the amount of light to the amount of heat. You look at the lamp you have in a house, the brighter the lamp, the hotter it is. So some may argue, oh, there's a greater heat source here, therefore the rate of evaporation will increase. Also here although it has less water, it doesn't mean that it is due to the rate of photosynthesis. So how can you address such concerns? You can if you can prevent the water from evaporating. And that's the purpose of the oil, to prevent the water from evaporating. So that's the first part. But if you just write this, you don't link back to the concept why. Why must you not have water evaporate? So here, you don't want water to evaporate. Alright, so the results are reliable because then you know the water loss is only due to photosynthesis. The water loss is not due to other reasons such as evaporation. So that's how you get a full mark. Alright, next one. So explain why setup C has the least amount of water left after 4 days. Again, link back to the concept, which is about rate of evaporation, and more light means that the rate of evaporation will increase. But it's 2 marks, right? So how do you get your 2 marks? Let's take a look at your CER and how can you use CER to do this. Okay, so the claim has been given. C has the least amount of water left after 4 days. Of course, you get 0 marks for this. And the evidence here is the amount of light shining on the plant in C is the most, 3 lamps, right? So that's the evidence. It's based on your observation and your comparison. So observe that it just has 3 lamps. Compared to the other 2, it has the most number of lamps. Therefore, the most amount of light. So that will give you the evidence. But so what if you can tell us the amount of light shining on it is the most? So link back to the reason, which is a science concept, which is rate of photosynthesis is the highest in C. Therefore, most amount of water is being used, resulting in the least amount of water left. So that's how you get your 2 marks for this. Your evidence and your reason. And let's go on to the next question. Now, for those who, because the picture is not too clear, let me read out the question to you. Jim conducted an experiment to find out how the size of food affected how fast the food is digested. How the size of the food affected how fast the food is digested. He placed some meat into each of the setups below, P, Q, and R, as shown. He cut the meat into 2 pieces for setup Q, 1 piece here, 2 pieces here, and then cut into 4 pieces for setup R. So the original size of the food is the same, but the number of pieces are different. He placed the meat into equal volume of digestive juice X, right, and the same time and the same amount of digestive juice X, as shown in the diagram below. So after 30 minutes, he recorded the results in the table. Alright. At the start of the experiment, the mass of the meat was like this. So the mass of meat wasn't exactly the same, right, at the start. After 30 minutes, they all decrease. Now, since the purpose is to find out how the size of the food affected how fast the food is digested, size of the food, right? So the only difference should be the size of the food, right? Size of the food should be different. So here what do we have that's different? Well, we have the mass being different. So we can say that the size is therefore different because the mass is different. It's the same kind of meat. Then shouldn't the picture here shows a big slab of meat, followed by a smaller slab of meat, followed by an even smaller slab of meat. Maybe the mass here is at 102, like in the table. Here it could be 95, here is 91 grams. That will be a fairer experiment. The only change variable is only the size. So what else is different here? They cut it up. When they cut into more pieces, what has changed? The surface area, right, of the meat exposed to the digestive juice increased. So actually more part of the meat now in R, more part of the meat is touching the digestive juice compared to this. So that means that will increase the rate of digestion. The idea is like, when you chew food in your mouth, and your parents and your teachers and whoever, right, who advise you, always remind you to chew your food properly before you eat it, before you swallow it. The idea of chewing it into smaller and smaller pieces is to increase the exposed surface area of the meat. Don't get confused with evaporation, it's not. To increase the exposed surface area of your food that is exposed to digestive juices. So you will speed up the digestion process. But here it's not about the exposed surface area to the liquid. It is about the size of food. So actually all these are actually of different sizes. So therefore, what is not fair here is they shouldn't have cut it up into many smaller pieces. Alright? So what should Jim do to ensure experiment is a fair test? He should ensure that every beaker contains only 1 piece of meat and not having many pieces of meat. Right? So here I would say that ensure that each beaker has just one piece of meat instead of different pieces, different number of pieces. So that's how I will answer this. Now, they talk about the kind of meat is the same. Let's take a look. Here, he placed some meat into each of the setups. There's no mention that the meat is the same kind of meat. Alright? It's fair to make an assumption that the meat is the same kind of meat. But because the question didn't state exactly so, it's better if the question has stated it. Because the question didn't state so, this answer is kind of no choice the teachers have to accept. Okay? Kind of no choice, right? Yeah, so we have to accept it. But that's not because the answer is the best. It's because the question wasn't tight enough to rule out this answer. If the question has said that he placed the same kind of meat into each of the setup, then this answer cannot work. And this is actually the best answer. Not because it's mine, but because of the way I've explained to you. So how does digestive juices help in the digestion process? Well, it breaks down food into simpler, very good, not smaller, it's simpler substances. Okay, this is correct. Now let's go on to the next part. Okay, the words are really not very clear. So students, if you send me pictures, do try to send me very clear pictures that will help me to help you. The graph shows how the amount of undigested food changes as it passes through the parts of Jim's digestive system. It's a very common looking question. Alright, and it chews. So basically the food go through a few parts, right? Go through the mouth. There's some digestion here, so it goes down because of the digestive juices in the mouth saliva. Gullet, no digestion, so it's a horizontal line, no digestion. Stomach, more digestion. Small intestine, even more, and that's the end of the digestion. When you go to large intestine, no more digestion because what comes here will be the undigested food. And what the large intestine does is just absorb the excess liquid. Okay? Now, in the graph above, draw how the amount of undigested food changes if Jim does not chew before swallowing. So if he does not chew, that means that the piece of food is larger, so the rate of digestion will be slower. Because your digestion system, like your mouth and your stomach and your small intestine needs to work more in order to break it down into simpler substances. So the line drawn here, I think this is drawn by the child on this line. I think that makes sense. Okay. At the end here, this is possible. It's possible that there will be some food that end up not being digested. I think this is possible. Okay. Now, next one, question 31. The diagram shows a plant cell. Okay, clearly you see these two layers, right? So you have your cell wall, cell membrane, nucleus, chloroplast. In which part of a what? I think it's a word, it's plant. In which part of a plant? I think it's plant. Are you able to find the cell above? Since it's chloroplast, I think I can find the leaf. Definitely is correct. State the function of part S. S points to the cytoplasm. So that's where cell activities take place. Okay. Cytoplasm, you can also say is where the substances move. Alright, inside I think this is fine. Explain why R cannot be found in an animal cell. Now R is chloroplast. Chloroplast contains chlorophyll. So the only organisms that can make food are plants. Alright, animals do not contain chloroplast, simply. Alright, so here animals cannot make their own food because they don't have chloroplast. Alright, this is the answer. Okay. And it's good that this student put down R, which is chloroplast. So this child proves to me she knows what is R. She knows the function of R is to trap and make food. Very good. Animals cannot make their own food. I think this is very good to include this. Alright. I think this part here is worth half a mark because you need to tell me what is chloroplast, and she did so here. Okay. Very good. So this is all correct. Next one. Okay, again, you need to read out because it's not very clear. Sammy conducted an experiment where she heated 3 different materials with the same amount of heat for 30 minutes and recorded the results in the table below. So heating, right, is about conductivity of materials, I think. Start of experiment, the temperature is the same at 28 degrees Celsius. At the end, they all increased, but this increased by a little bit, by only 7 degrees Celsius. This one increased by 22 degrees Celsius. This increased by 52 degrees Celsius to 80. Alright, she heat 3 different materials with the same amount of heat. So this one, the temperature range increases the most. That suggests to me that this material is the best conductor of heat. And this one is the poorest conductor of heat. She started another experiment and placed it under the sun for an hour. So this is a plastic sheet, I suppose. I'm not sure what sheet this is. Alright, and it's a basin, there's water. Oh, this one is about evaporation and condensation. Remember your cooler surface stuff? Water vapor condenses on the cooler surface under the sun, right? I see the sun. So heat. So here water gains heat and evaporate. And the water vapor touches cooler surface and condense. Then water droplets form and drip inside the container. Alright, now in the table above, fill in 2 materials P, Q, and R that she should use for each part of the setup so she can collect the most amount of water in the basin. Alright, so what does she want? For the tank here, she wants the tank to be able to gain heat as fast as possible so that it can, heat from the sun can be conducted through the tank into the water. So for me, I will want my tank to be made of the best conductor of heat. I want my tank to be made of material R, which is the best conductor of heat. Okay, so I would choose R. Yeah, I agree with her. As for sheet P, as for the sheet, this is a cooler surface. The cooler surface here, let's see. She chose P. So I was thinking, what could this material be? If it is a good conductor of heat, let's say like metal, alright? Does it work? I think it will work. The problem with metal here, of course, is that because it's metal, the metal also gains heat fast from the sun, right? That means that this will be hot. So whatever water droplets that condenses here will gain heat as well and then evaporate quickly. So if this is a poorer conductor of heat, then it doesn't gain heat from the sun so quickly, and therefore the water droplets that are condensed here do not gain heat as fast. Therefore, they won't evaporate so quickly and have a better chance of dripping down and dripping here. So I agree, this should be made of the poorest conductor of heat, which is material P. Now state 2 other modifications to the setup Tammy can make to collect more pure water for 6 hours. So in order to collect more pure water, let's talk about the rate of evaporation. What affects the rate of evaporation? You have wind, you have temperature, and you have exposed surface area. Okay? So what can she do? Modification. So modification means changes. So in other words, we can make changes to the setup. Now, the conditions are always important. Sometimes they say without changing anything. In this case here, we can change something. So for example, I can use a smaller basin. What do I mean? If I use a smaller basin, let me show you. My basin is small. And so my salt water, notice the exposed surface area now is much larger, these two, compared to this. which is smaller. Alright, comparing these two. Larger, smaller. So I can use a smaller basin. So that's my answer. Smaller basin. As I explained, they only say suggest to modification. They didn't talk about explaining. But if I'm asked to explain, I'll link this to exposed surface area. Now what else can I do? Alright, I can maybe temperature difference. I know that the greater the temperature difference, the higher the rate of condensation. So, one more idea here is not just evaporation, it's also the rate of condensation. This is something that's not directly taught in class, but something that you infer through your data as well as in the questions that you've learned before. So the temperature difference is very great, as in what temperature difference between this cooler surface, the cooler and the water vapor. The cooler surface is really cold. For example, I put ice cube on top of this. And this one becomes very cold. Then this one truly becomes a cooler surface. So, and then the water vapor that touches this will have a higher chance of, it will condense much faster. Higher rate of condensation. So I will place ice cubes on the sheets. Alright, and this is about changing the temperature. Or I can place the whole container, whole tank, right, under a heat source here. So I try to increase the rate of evaporation by increasing the temperature here. If I increase the rate of evaporation, there will be more water vapor in the same amount of time that can rise up, and therefore more water vapor can touch the cooler surface, more water vapor can condense. So I can also do that. I can heat the tank, alright, with a hot plate, for example. Okay, so I use a sheet with a cold surface, definitely correct. This one is linked to this. I would and then use hot salt water. I suggest this idea is similar to heating the tank with a hot plate. So the only problem with this is also under the sun, and this is hot, right? Because if it's placed under the sun, it will gain heat. It will not be at room temperature anymore. It's placed under the sun. So when you say hot, this is not a comparative. How can you talk about even more? If you talk about using hotter salt water, I can understand, oh, you are not increasing the temperature. If you just say hot water, no, I cannot see the idea very clearly from you that you understand that you have to increase the temperature of the salt water by whatever means you're using. So this answer I will not accept. Next one. John replaced the original window with a double glazed window of the same material. Now, double glazed window are the kind that has air pocket inside. It's actually not, you don't find in Singapore usually, because it's meant for use in cold countries. And air, as you know, is a poor conductor of heat. That means that it will reduce the heat lost to the environment, keeping your room warmer. Alright, of course the reverse is true. It will also reduce the heat gain from the environment if the environment outside is hotter. Like here in this case, outside is hotter, inside is cooler. Alright, therefore the heat gain, heat wants to conduct through the material is difficult because there are three poor conductor of heat in the way. First, glass, poor conductor of heat. Next, air, poor conductor of heat. Last, glass again, another poor conductor of heat. So the room will not gain heat as fast because it has these three layers of poor conductor of heat. So explain why surface 1 did not have as much water droplet on it as part A. Surface 1 is here, and surface 2 is this. Let's see what's going on. So explain why surface 1 did not have as much water droplet on it as in part A. Part A. I don't quite get the connection between this and part A. This is the same person, John. It's different. I think this is a different question. I need part A to do this. So the student will give me this. I don't have part A. This is John, and this is not this because this is Sammy. It's a different question. So I cannot do this because I do not know what happened in part A. I need the full story. Okay, so this I can't do. Alright. Now next one, let's look at this. This is somebody who PDF this and send an email this to me. The quality is okay. Hashim wanted to find out the effect of substance W on an aquatic plant. Alright. He placed some water moss fern in a beaker of water containing the substance W as shown. So what is substance W? I do not know. Water moss is a floating plant. Alright. Substance W. What should Hashim do to enable him to compare the effect of substance W on the water moss after 2 weeks? Now, whenever I look at a question, I'm thinking of the concept. I see plants, okay, and I don't see other animals, okay. Now, what could this be? And so if let's say it's in a place that's light shines on the plant, so there'll be photosynthesis. So I don't see any issue with the plant receiving light and the roots absorb water. There should be gaseous exchange because the leaves are all here, so it should be able to get the carbon dioxide it needs to make food and give up oxygen. I'm not quite sure what's the concept being tested in this question so far up to this point. Let me read on. Pour a layer of oil on the water. What's the purpose? So effect. Okay, I must first say I don't think this question is a very good question because the person who designed the question must be able to tell the students quite clearly through whatever clues given the concept. Okay, as of right now, I can't see the concept. Is it about plant growth? If it's plant growth, I don't see things like number of plants growing. Because part C here suggests plant growth. Alright, compare mass of water fern. Part A is talking about respiration, is it? Talking about whether the plants can, this is usually to cover the stomata, alright, to prevent gaseous exchange. But why? Not stated. Count the number of water moss alive. This is about survival. You see, there's a whole lot of things here being assessed. Is it about survival? Is it about growth? Is it about photosynthesis? Because if you cover the leaves, you cannot take in the carbon dioxide, it cannot make food. Alright? Now, having a control, I think is important. So whatever you're comparing, a control means you don't have that change variable. So in other words, you have another beaker with same amount of water, with same number of the water moss plant, with just water and no substance W. Then you need a comparison. Whatever you want to compare after 2 weeks, you want to compare number of water moss ferns left, yeah, you need a control to know whether this one is helping the water moss to grow better, worse, or it has no effect at all. Is it to count the mass? Same. Whether it has the same effect as or no effect. So you always need a control. So B definitely should be in the answer. So it must have B. So I will rule out 2 and 3. But what is the effect? Because the question doesn't tell me exactly. So I'm not sure what is the effect. If I cover a layer of oil at the start, the plant will definitely die because it will not have, the stomata will be covered up. If I cover this, it will die. Alright, so I cannot have A. So I don't have A. I think by elimination, I will come to 4. But still, I will say that I think it's a poorly designed question because even if I do this as an experiment, let's say Hashim does this, right? At the end, what's the aim? Is it about survival or is it about growth? Not very clear. So since that there could be maybe 2 aims, maybe you can argue there are 2 aims. But anyway, I think the answer is 4. I think I agree with the answer key. I think this is the answer. I agree it's 4. And this is how I deduce this answer. This one looks like a picture from a past year PSLE question. 2013, 2012, long time ago question. Henry placed 4 plants in identical jars, so same volume, each containing water at the same level, confirm same amount of water, as shown below. He placed the 4 setup next to the window. Next to the window means there will be light shining in. Okay, so there's photosynthesis going on. Water will be absorbed. Now, are the plants the same kind of plants? The leaf shape looks like the same kind of leaf shape. The roots look like the same kind of roots. The difference here is 2 leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 leaves. And here, no water. So the roots cannot absorb any water in this case. Right? So, at the end of the experiment, Henry measured the height of the water in each jar. But which one is which one? So let's take a look at photosynthesis, right? We know that photosynthesis requires the use of water. So which one requires the use of water? This one, no water being absorbed. So the amount of water left in C will be the same. There's no evaporation also because there's oil preventing evaporation. So at the start is 250. At the end for jar C is still 250. So therefore, 250 at the start, at the end, this is correct, C. Next one. So which one have the highest rate of evaporation? So that will be this one, A. He has the most number of leaves, most chlorophyll. Alright, so the rate of evaporation will definitely be higher than these two. So A would have the least water left. Plus there's also more leaves means more stomata, means more loss of water through the stomata as water vapor. There are 2 ways water can be lost here. One is being used for photosynthesis, one is in the process of this thing called transpiration. So A will have the least amount of water left. So this amount of water here is minus 5, here is minus 10, here is minus 20. This A is correct. Between these two, this would have more photosynthesis than this one. So B will have less water compared to D. B have less water compared to D. Less water, so this should be B. This is this B, this D. Okay. If Henry want to show that the roots of the plant is taking water, which 2 setups should he compare? Taking water. So I should have this one control. Taking water, so C must be one of them. And everything else being equal, same number of leaves compared with A. So C and A. So this is correct. Base your answer in B. Which setup serves as a control? So control, if it's B, right? Then of course your setup C is a control, not A. C is a control because the control is the one whereby you remove that variable that you want to change. Just like in this earlier question, if you want to test the effect of substance W, then the control will have no substance W. If you want to compare which brand of fertilizer, your aim is, for example, which fertilizer can cause a plant to grow better, then your control will be a pot of plant with no fertilizer. Alright? So in this case here, if you the control will be C, because C cannot absorb any water at all. There's no water loss here. Alright? So C, the roots are wrapped in a plastic to prevent water from the roots from absorbing water. Okay. So the control setup, as I mentioned, is for you to have a setup whereby it does not have that thing that you want to test on. If the aim is to find out which fertilizer will help the plant to grow better, maybe have four kind of brands, A, B, C, D brand fertilizer. You have 4 pots of the same kind of plant, same size. You should have a 5th one as a control, and that one has no fertilizer at all. Okay. Now, so this person made the following statements about human reproductive system. It's a female reproductive system. The female reproductive system is a flowering plant. Which statements are correct? Male reproductive cells are produced only in M. M is the anther. Okay, here no male cells, right? So A definitely is wrong. If A is wrong, these 2 will be out. Okay, definitely not. Let me see again. Only in M. Oh, okay, there are 4 parts. M, N, L, K, right? So only in M. Okay, that's true. That's true. My mistake. That's true. I thought they were supposed to compare. Female reproductive cells are found in K. Only. This is a very important word. Only. That means there's nowhere else. K. This is the ovary. It contains the female, the egg cell. Alright, let me see. How about this part? N is the ovary here. There's also N, right? It's a female, it contains the ovules, the female reproductive cell. So this is not true. It's not only in K only, it's also in N. So B must be true. The fertilized female reproductive cell will develop in L and N. Okay, N is true, right? The fertilized cell will develop here as ovules to become seed. And then in this case here, L is the womb, and that's where the fetus will start to develop into a baby eventually. So that's true. So B and C, where is B and C? I don't see B and C as an answer in the options given here. I think the answer should be B and C, but I don't see B and C. So let's say, I think the options here is missing B and C. So let's say that we are forced to choose in the exam, and the teacher, you ask the invigilator, and the teacher come and say, insists that, okay, there's nothing wrong with the options. In this case here, we must choose the one that we're most confident in. Alright, in this case here, I'm very confident that of both, but I would choose number 2 then. Alright, I'll choose female reproductive cell can only be found in K. It's definitely only in K. Okay, let's see again. B is wrong. What am I talking about? So sorry. B is wrong, right? Put across. So B cannot be the answer. B cannot be the answer. We say A is correct, so it's A and C. So sorry, I looked at the wrong one. So answer is A and C. Male cells are only found in the anther. Fertilized female cell will develop in both the womb, the L, and N, which is the ovary. So A and C is correct. Answer is 3. Answer is, sorry, answer is 4. Okay, answer is 4. Pardon me here, I think I confused you a little bit. So many questions. Okay, she recorded the time each plant took to produce 50 bubbles in the table. Okay, why is this half a story? Okay. Girls, if you want to send me question, I need a whole story. This one starts with question B. So I would love to see the full story starting from part A. Let me see if I'm able to do this. So here should be about photosynthesis, right? Plant produce bubbles. More like, how come more like? Time taken to produce bubbles, same number of bubbles is less. So talking about rate of photosynthesis here. With greater light intensity, there's higher rate of photosynthesis. So as light intensity increases, correct, the plant traps more light and photosynthesizes at a faster rate, correct? Yeah, that's correct. That's enough, okay, to get your 1 mark for this. Kai-Sin conducted experiment in a dark room. Dark room is so that that all the light source the plant gets comes from whichever light source this is. It could be a lamp or something. So there's no other light from the surrounding to affect the experiment. It prevents light from other sources from affecting the amount of light trapped by the plant, correct? Okay. And the amount of light trapped by the plant is solely due to the light from the torch and not from other variables. This is correct. So actually you don't have to write so much. This alone is 1 mark. This answer is another way of saying this is also 1 mark. So you can write this second part, you get 1 mark. Or you write the first part, you also get 1 mark. Okay? Now, Kai-Sin realized the fish in the aquarium with water plants had been swimming to the surface of the water frequently. Based on the result of experiment, what should she do? Surface means that because there's air here, right? So the air will dissolve into the water at the surface. So actually there's actually quite a fair bit of the dissolved oxygen at the surface. And the fish know that. So when the fish is out of oxygen or find, there's not enough dissolved oxygen here, they go to the surface here, not to breathe in the air, but to breathe in to use the dissolved oxygen in the water near to the surface. What can she do to ensure that they have to swim to the surface? So in other words, you need to have more dissolved oxygen at the bottom, right? You can add more water plants. Must you explain? What should she do only? No, this question does not have any condition to control what it can do. The question didn't say without changing anything in the setup. The question didn't say without adding or removing anything. In other words, you can do whatever you want. You can add more water plants to increase the rate of photosynthesis, because more water plants, more bubbles being produced, more oxygen being produced. This is not wrong, huh? Okay? This is not wrong. You can add a lamp to increase the rate of photosynthesis as well. This can work. Alright? Or put in an air pump to pump in oxygen or air. You know? There are many ways. This question doesn't control, I don't see any condition to control your answer such that you cannot give this, so this is fine. Okay, last question. A scientist carried out an investigation to find out how the amount of dissolved oxygen affect the number of two types of organisms. Okay. Alright. Organisms were placed in two different containers of water. Okay, same number of each type of organism. So one triangle represents 10A. So here there are 30 organism A and 30 organism B. 30 organism A, 30 organism B. Based on the results, he concluded that organism A is not affected by the amount of dissolved oxygen. Organism B is affected. How is it affected? Is it positively or negatively? I don't know. So if it's not affected, meaning that and how long did you do it? Huh? You mentioned the duration. Different amount of dissolved oxygen. Okay. They didn't mention how long, so I will not be thinking about reproduction and all that. So if it's not affected, then the number shouldn't change. Okay. So for example, these two, no change, is possible answer. This one, no change, is a possible answer. This one, change, so cannot be. This one, change, so cannot be. So far, I have either 1 or 3 as possible answer. Looking at this statement, A is not affected by the amount of oxygen. Same number of A, alright? Now look at B. If B is affected, therefore the population should either increase or decrease. Okay? It shows B population to remain the same. So cannot. This one shows B population increase a lot. This one, yes. Right, so the answer for this is 3. It shouldn't be 4. I'm not sure why your answer gives 4. 4 is wrong. Okay, that's all the help I can give you for this. And that's the end of the Q&A session from my 6K students. Right, take care, keep on revising, but do remember to take time to rest and to relax too. Bye.